So when you log into CRM or D365 application, you'll notice that this is the new unified interface. It's been out for roughly almost a year, I would say. Some of you may still be using the web interface potentially, but you should look at switching to the unified interface, as the web interface will be deprecated fairly shortly. What the unified interface is it's a new user experience and interface for D365 that uses a responsive web design to harmonize the way users access data and interact with the customer engagement or CRM features across all devices, browsers, and individual applications. So it doesn't matter if I'm using this on a mobile device, a tablet, um, my own work PC. It doesn't matter which browser, Chrome, Edge browser, or IE, it's going to respond in exactly the same way. So you notice I have accounts, contacts, leads, all these different entities. Looks exactly the same as other interface. They've obviously cleaned up the interface, but to make it easier, so if I choose a particular account, I can see I have summary details. So instead of scrolling, everything's sort of in this tab view. But like I say, the information is obviously stored in the CDS in the background, so you don't, by moving from the web interface to unified, you don't lose any of the information that you previously had. So to make changes to forms or add new fields or create new entities, that is all done through, or is now going to be done through Powerapps. So this is this same Powerapps that you use to create a Canvas driven app, but what we're going to be doing is creating a model driven app through. So what you want to do is go to make.powerapps.com. Then you want to make sure that you're choosing a specific environment. So let me actually, just before I do that, switch back to our apps here. So what these apps are, you'll notice that there's the Sales Hub, and there's the D365 custom app, and then you got like Customer Service Hub as well. These are all individual applications that only surface certain parts of D365 to the end users. So I could create a specific app for, as an example, only my salespeople or only my operations staff, um, or only customer support staff. So I have the, or I can create an app that's, finance staff. So, and each one of these apps could be different. So when you're using D365 in Outlook, as an example, that is a separate app from other apps. So that one is listed. And I'll show you that shortly here as to where that is. But so that's how you get to see your app. So if I switch to, the Sales Hub, I'm going to see a different experience. That I was just in the Sales Hub, but this is the app I was in, and I can switch to the Customer Service Hub, and I would get a different app with different things surfaced to me or to the end users. So going back to our Powerapps, so what I want to do is first ensure that I'm in the correct environment, and I can switch environments. So you have your default environment. You obviously want to have a separate environment where you're going to be creating apps. And then the other important thing to understand is to put it in a separate solution. So I would create a new solution. I have the one called Webinar in this particular case that I've created. And within that solution, so I'm going to go into the solution, I have different entities that I've added into the solution that I can modify. So I can go to account as an example. And you'll notice I have all the fields that are part of account. I have relationships, I have business rules, I have the different views that you would see within D365. I have the different forms, dashboards, charts, keys, and obviously data. So if I go to data, I can see all the data that's actually in there. I'm going to go back to forms just to show you the account form. So if I click on the account form, you'll notice that this looks exactly like the account form that I'm pulling up when accessing D365. So I have, a summary tab with account information, address information. I have the details tab, and I have a files tab. So I'm just going to go back to add. I can add an existing entity, or like I said, I can create a new one. So here's all the entities that are part of the CDS that I can add. So I would select entity, and then here's all the entities that I have access to. So for example, I have account case. I could add, let's add the lead entity as an example. And I would conclude the components and add it. So now I have the lead entity. If I drill into that, I have relationships, the same stuff we just reviewed previous. So to create my own, I'm just going to go back to the account entity for a second. To create my own field, what I would want to do is click add field at the top here. And let's say we want to create a webinar type field as an example, or webinar notes, or let's call it account notes. So it's going to be notes related to the account. I have different data types I can choose. So it could be text area, email, phone number, number, could be pulling the value from an option set, which I'll review shortly. It could be date time. So I'm just going to select text here. I could make it required or not required. I could give it a description. I can enable field level security. And if I hit done, so account notes, so I've added account notes here. It's a custom field. Let's go into our solution again and add an option set. So let's first save the entity. So option sets are under data, and I would select, because option sets are actually part of the CDS, not the specific solution that I'm modifying. So I can create a new option set. I've actually created one already called webinar type, I think. So we're just going to select that one. And I've added some different options. So create a new option, I just click add item and then add it to there. I'll remove this one here. So I have some different options that are available to me. Click save. I'm also going to add, go back to our solution, and we're going to go back to the account, and I'm going to create another field. That's going to be webinar type, and it's going to be based on our option set. If I do a lookup here, I have all these webinar types, or all these option sets. This is the one we just created. So I'm going to select that. I could edit the option set from here. So if I wanted to add another option to the option set, I could definitely do that here. Just going to cancel that for now. I could set a default value, make it required if I wanted to. I'm just going to leave this off for now. Hit done. So now I've added two new fields. Let's go into our forms and let's modify the main account form. It's saving the changes I've made to the entity. So here's on the left-hand side, it shows me all the fields that are unused currently on the form that I'm modifying. So if I go to the tree view, expand that, I can see the header section. Here's the header that would show up here. Here's the summary, so the information that would show in the summary, details, files, footer. I can obviously add new. If I click add new component, I can add different columns. I can add different inputs, subgrids. So this is how you would modify forms. I'm just going to go back to our fields again. Go back to our summary tab. Let's say I wanted to add within here, I want to add my new field. So I'm going to search for account notes. And I can just drag this around to wherever I wanted to add this. So if I wanted this to be under contacts, I can definitely do that. I'm just going to add it within this section. So account notes is showing up here, and I'm also going to add our webinar type as a new field within this section. And at this point, I would hit save. You can make this, hidden field, a lock field. I have all sorts of formatting options. So we'll just save the changes I've made to our main account form. So that is the changes to the form. And the last piece is going to be publishing our solution. You could also add a new form under here. It could be another form that somebody could select. So I could have, one for administrators, one for general users that they could switch between. And so I'd go back to solutions, select our webinar, and I'm at this point could publish all customizations that we've made within that solution. Please remember that any modifications I make will affect all applications. So if I change, the account main form, if I'm using that in another application, that will also be affected by the changes I am making. So if you want different forms for different applications, you want to make sure you copy or modify existing forms. So once this is published, if we go back to the Sales Hub application, so Sales Hub or Customer Service Hub, doesn't really matter. You'll notice that if I go to that account form that we just modified, we'll notice that the two fields that we added are now here. So and our option set field is also listed here. So webinar type, BC, GP, CRM, can set that, save that record, and continue on. So easy, quick way to modify existing forms or adding new options to option sets. There's also you have the ability through Powerapps. So now that we've shown you how to modify forms, I could also modify a view if I wanted to. So going back to our data here. So going into solutions, going into views, on the active accounts view as an example. It's quite easy. Currently, these are all the fields that are on the view. I could easily add a column. So as an example, if I wanted, let's go address, business type. Let's say I want that added. You'll notice that business type is now added in here. Let's do our account notes. Could be a column as well. So now that I have this view, once again, it's just save and publishing. I could also just publish the view directly from here or publish the entire solution, but I am working within that solution at the moment. So that's how you modify a view. So now we've talked about forms, modifications, view modifications. I'm going to show you how to build your own app with your own custom, with certain entities in it. So create your own app from within D365. You want to go to advanced settings, and go to my apps. Notice those are the same apps that we're just looking at. So I can usually create a new app using the app designer here. So we'll create one. We'll call it webinar 2. Give it a description. I can change the image and use an existing solution to create the app. I could have a welcome page. So we're just going to, at this point, you'll notice that this is the URL it's giving it. I will show you how to give it a unique name in a minute. And we'll hit done. So at this point is just basically a blank app with nothing in it. I first need to create a sitemap for my particular application. So let's open up the sitemap. And I can create an area, a new area group. So I have an area here. Go to properties. Give it a title. So let's call this sales. So I have a group, and this could be account related. So I'll just call it accounts. And I could also create a sub area. So this is where I could have a dashboard, an entity, web resource, or URL. We're going to select a specific entity that I want to have listed under accounts. So this will be the account entity. So we'll select account. And you notice account is listed. Now to add another component, I would just drag area subgrid, select the type again. We're going to create another entity. And this one we'll say is going to be our contacts as an example. So we have account contacts at this point. I can continue on with this and add other, basically create a navigation within the app itself. And that looks very similar. If I go back to our app, the Sales Hub app, you'll notice the navigation is accounts, contacts, my work. I have sales, I have leads, opportunities. So these are the sub areas, is the accounts and contacts. If I go back to App Designer, the grouping is the customer, sales, collateral, marketing. And then the overall tab at the top here, what that is that at the bottom here I have sales, but I also have app settings, help and support. These are the different areas that I have available to me. So I have accounts, contacts. Now let's create another one called, we're going to create another group. Let's drag that into here and we'll call it marketing as an example. And I'm not going to go in and add more stuff to this, but I'm just want to show you what this would look like. So at this point, I'm just going to save our app. We just have account, contacts, and marketing at this point. We'll hit publish. It's going to publish our sitemap. So you'll notice that it automatically added accounts and contacts in here. Now I have forms, views, charts, and dashboards related. I'm seeing all forms, but I could restrict this specific app to only have certain forms viewable. So I could say instead, if I just want our main um, account form, and we'll select quick form as well, and the quick create form as well. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do with the accounts. Views, same thing. I could turn off all the views and only say I want our active accounts view. And contacts I'll just leave as is for right now. I'll hit save. And we can go ahead and publish our Webinar 2 app. Now I can also play the app from here. So if I hit the play button, it's going to bring up my app just so the URL looks exactly the same that I had before. And you'll notice I only have accounts and contacts listed here. Under accounts, I have active accounts listed and we have the one. This is the only view that I gave myself access to. And under accounts, I gave myself access to every one of the views. As you can see, they're all listed here. And the reason I'm not seeing the marketing area is because we didn't actually add anything under that. So if I go back to my sitemap, just quickly add a sub area. And we're just going to create an entity and we're going to say this will be the, let's just put leads here for now, or lead entity. So let's go back to our app designer and we're just going to play. So as you can see, I do not see my Webinar 2 app listed here. And what you need to do is hit the refresh button at the top and then it's going to show up. So if we go into Webinar 2 app that I've created, notice that I have marketing and area accounts areas, and then I have the different entities that I had in my app. So as you can see, this is very specific. I can create very specific apps to certain functions within my organization using this method and only expose things and modify screens so if I go back to my accounts, and we're going to go back to active accounts and back to our, as you can see, the changes I made to the form are visible within this app. So I have my account notes and my webinar type listed here as new fields. If we go back to our app once again, I can show you how to create. So this is the specific URL, but I'll show you how to create a custom URL for your app as well. So to create a custom URL, what you want to do is go to the gear icon, go to advanced settings once again, go to my apps. In the my app section, I want to go to manage roles. Now it's important that you also assign a specific your app to certain roles, or else people won't be able to see the app. So in this example, I have system administrator and customizer assigned, but if I hold the control button, I can also say, as an example, let's say sales person, I would turn that on. So as you can see, that's highlighted in blue. So these are the three roles that would have access to this app. To create a specific URL, basically clicking the app URL suffix and then putting something in here. So this is blank normally, but I could just put in something. In this case, I'll just put web, hit save. This will create that app suffix. So what this looks like is if I go into the app designer, I can see this is the unified interface URL. So if I was to copy this URL and paste this into, so this is what it would look like, is my tenant.crm.dynamics.com/apps, and then whatever specific URL that you've created. Once I do this and hit enter, it's going to launch the app in exactly the app that we had before. So this is creating an app. Webinar recap. We reviewed what is the unified interface, showed you how to access make.powerapps.com. We reviewed how to modify forms, create a field, change option sets. I also showed you how to build an app with certain entities, and we also reviewed the URL modification and deploying your app.